Magic Treehouse, Night of the New Magicians by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 9, The Sorcerer. Jack's knees turned to jelly. The knocking came again. Mr. Eiffel laughed. Goodness, another unexpected guest. He started toward the door. Don't open it, Jack shouted. Everyone looked at Jack as if he were crazy. It's a sorcerer, Jack said. My sister was telling the truth. He thinks you're all magicians. Don't be afraid, son, Dr. Pasteur said to Jack. I'm sure it's just another guest. Mr. Eiffel stepped toward the door. No, please, shouted Jack. Mr. Eiffel opened the door. There was a deafening clap of thunder. A ball of fire blasted into the room. Jack covered his face. Then all was quiet. Jack? Annie said in a small voice. Jack looked up. A golden haze had filled the room. Annie stepped quickly to Jack's side, but none of the others moved. Mr. Eiffel, Mr. Bell, Mr. Edison, and Dr. Pasteur were all as still as stone. Jack could barely make out a dark figure in the long cloak, standing in the doorway. It's him, cried Jack. We have to say our rhyme. Jack shouted the line he had memorized. Thing before us, now we see. Jack waited for Annie to finish the rhyme, but she didn't say her line. Oh no, she's forgotten it, Jack thought wildly. Suddenly he heard Annie laugh. It's you, she said. Jack looked up. The haze had cleared. The sorcerer's face glowed in the light. It was a familiar face, craggy and with electric blue eyes. Merlin? Breathed Jack. The master magician answered him with a smile. Merlin! Hi, said Annie. She rushed over and hugged him. Jack just stared at Merlin. What happened? He asked. Where's the evil sorcerer? There are evil sorcerers in my world, Merlin said in his deep voice. But I assure you, none of them were here at the World's Fair today. So you were the messenger, said Annie. You delivered the invitations for everyone to come to the top of the tower? Yes, I was the messenger, said Merlin. I wanted to gather these remarkable men together so you could meet them all in the short time you had to spend in Paris. But why did you tell us that we had to find them before an evil sorcerer did? Said Jack. Merlin smiled. Without that challenge, would you have used all your powers of thinking and courage, he asked? Would you have been so determined to find the new magicians and learn their secrets? Well, maybe not, Jack said honestly. Problems make us focus our energy, said Merlin. They can help us think more sharply and act more swiftly. Never wish for all your problems to disappear. Problems can help you achieve your goals. Do you understand? Jack and Annie nodded. So now that you are... What are the secrets of these remarkable men? Asked Merlin. I truly wish to know. If you want to reach your goal, you have to love adventure and responsibility, said Jack. You have to study and be prepared so luck will favor you, said Annie. You have to work really hard because genius is 99% perspiration and only 1% inspiration, said Jack. And you should never lose hope, said Annie, because when one door closes, another one opens, and you don't want to miss it. Wonderful, said Merlin. These are excellent secrets, and I believe you not only learned them on this mission, but you lived each of them as well. Do you understand? I guess, said Jack. Annie looked at the four frozen men. What about them, Merlin? She said anxiously. Will they be okay? Yes, they will awaken as soon as I leave. Do not worry, said Merlin. I'm sorry I almost made you disappear, said Jack. Merlin smiled. That's quite all right. But now we have a little problem. One must never leave a magic rhyme hanging in the air unfinished. Oh, said Jack. So Annie needs to finish the rhyme and make something disappear? Precisely, said Merlin. Perhaps you could use a rhyme to speed me back to Camelot. Sure, said Annie. But do you have to leave so soon? Yes, I must be on my way, said Merlin. I would not want to confuse these kind gentlemen. Do not worry. I will send for you both again in the very near future. But now it's time for me to disappear. Jack smiled. Goodbye, Merlin, he said. Annie took a deep breath, and she looked at Merlin, slowly said her line. VB1, new EV. There was a clap of thunder and a blast of fiery light, and Merlin was gone. Just as suddenly the new magicians came back to life. Mr. Eiffel pointed to the open door. open the doorway as the wind gusted inside. You see, son, he said to Jack, it's only the wind. Oh, yeah, said Jack, pretending to be embarrassed. I'm sorry. Don't worry, said Mr. Rifle. You and your sister are perfectly safe. We live in the wondrous new world of science and not in the old world of magic and sorcerers. Mr. Rifle moved toward the open doorway. Come, let us all step outside and take a look at our new world. Everyone joined him on the windy terrace and looked over the railing. Paris is a lovely city, is it not? Mr. Rifle said. Jack and Annie and the others watched the giant spotlight sweep over Paris like white comets. The light shined down on the domes and treetops and the grand monuments and church spires, the colorful fountain waters and rippling river. The boat lights twinkled like fireflies. Thanks to Mr. Rifle and his tower, we can see the entire city, Mr. Edison shouted above the wind. Thanks to Mr. Edison, 10,000 gas street lamps in Paris will soon be replaced by electric lights, said Mr. Eiffel. Thanks to Dr. Pasteur's Institute, we will soon have cures for many more deadly diseases, said Mr. Bell. And thanks to Mr. Bell, I'll be able to call you all on the telephone and tell you all about it, joked Dr. Pasteur. Everyone laughed. And this is just the beginning, said Annie. Someday people will carry tiny telephones in their pockets and talk to other people anywhere in the world. Annie, we'd better be going, said Jack. He didn't want the others to know he and Annie were from the future. But Annie kept talking. And there'll be these things called computers, she said, that can give you instant information about anything, anytime. Annie, said Jack. And get this, she shouted. She pointed to the full moon overhead. Someday people will actually walk on the moon up there. The men all chuckled. You have a most delightful imagination, said Mr. Eiffel. And that is a wonderful thing, said Mr. Edison. Without imagination, none of us would be standing here right now. Well, we'd better get going home now, said Jack. And where is your home? The moon? Teased Dr. Eiffel. No, it's Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, in the United States, said Jack. How will you get there? Said Mr. Bell. Our magic treehouse, said Annie. The men laughed. Jack tried to laugh with them. Good one, Annie, he said. Well, let's go. Annie, I hope you and your brother have a safe trip in your magic treehouse, said Mr. Eiffel. You have both been most entertaining guests. Please come visit me any time. Jack and Annie waved goodbye to the four men. Then they climbed carefully down the spiral staircase and started down the 1,652 steps of the Eiffel Tower. Chapter 10. Good night, magicians. It was much easier walking down 1,652 steps than walking up. Jack and Annie walked down and 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 down until finally they stepped onto the ground. Jack noticed that the two-seater bicycle was gone. I guess those two people came and got their bike, he said. Jack and Annie looked around. Exhibits were covered and gates were locked. All the motion of noise of the World's Fair had ended for the day. The living encyclopedia had gone to sleep. Suddenly Jack felt very exhausted. Home, said Annie. Jack nodded. Frog Creek, he said, sighing. Jack and Annie hurried over the bridge and across the avenue. Those guys were really nice, said Jack, as they walked through the dark, rose-scented park. I know, said Annie. They acted like regular people, but they've done all those amazing things. Yeah, said Jack. They're like magicians in disguise. Jack and Annie came to the magic treehouse. They climbed up the rope ladder and looked one last time out the window. The Eiffel Tower seemed to stand watch over Paris, its spotlight sweeping over the city. Jack pulled Merlin's letter out of his satchel. He opened it and pointed to the words, Frog Creek. I wish we could go. Before Jack could finish making the wish, he and Annie were bathed in brilliant white light. Jack looked up. One of the beams of the tower spotlight had come to rest on the tree. It shined on them for a long moment. With both hands, Annie waved wildly to the blinding light, and Jack waved too. Good night, magicians, Annie shouted. Jack laughed. Annie pointed at Merlin's letter again and finished his wish. Home to Frog Creek, he said. The wind started to blow, the treehouse started to spin, it spun faster and faster, then everything was still, absolutely still. Jack opened his eyes. He and Annie were dressed in their regular clothes again. Dusky light filtered in the treehouse. No time at all had passed in Frog Creek. That was a great trip, Jack said softly. Really great, said Annie. Jack pulled the guidebook the 1889 Paris World's Fair out of his backpack. He left it on the treehouse floor along with Merlin's letter, but he kept Teddy and Kathleen's book of magic rhymes. So we have 3 rhymes left for our 4th adventure, he said. Quack, quack, said Annie. Very funny, said Jack. Ready? Yep, said Annie. She climbed down the rope ladder and Jack followed. As they started walking through the darkening woods, the world felt familiar and ordinary again. I can't believe we just met all those guys, said Jack. I can't believe I actually shook hands with Thomas Edison. You mean with Alva, said Annie. Yeah, Alva. Wow, Jack said softly. What do you think Merlin meant when he said we had lived all their secrets, as well as learned them? Well, think about it, said Jack. We wouldn't have gone on our mission in the first place if we didn't have a love for adventure and responsibility, like Mr. Eiffel. Right, said Annie, and we sure put a lot of sweat into our mission when we climbed the stairs. And we didn't lose hope when the door of the Institute was locked, said Jack. We stuck around until another door opened. And you prepared us by reading from the research book, said Annie. So chance favored us when we heard someone call Thomas Edison the Wizard of Menlo Park. And chance favored us when those 2 people lent us their bike, said Jack. Actually, I don't think that was chance, Annie said. What do you mean? Said Jack. Did you notice that man looked more like a kid in disguise? Said Annie. His beard and mustache looked kind of fakey. I did notice that, said Jack, but there was so much going on, I didn't have time to think about it. And the woman talked in that funny, squeaky voice, and the veil over her hat covered her face, said Annie. And the guy told us to spin like a whirlwind. That was a weird thing to say, but it reminded us of the rhyme in Teddy and Kathleen's book. Jack nodded slowly, then he smiled. You think those 2 were actually Teddy and Kathleen, he said. Maybe, said Annie. On our last 3 missions I felt like they were with us, helping us get to the right place at the right time. Next time maybe we can catch them when they help us, said Jack. Annie laughed. Yeah, we'll try to surprise them for a change. Good plan, said Jack. A bell jingled in the distance. Ice cream, said Annie. Yep, that's our mission now, said Jack. The ice cream bell jingled again. Jack and Annie ran out of the woods into the soft summer twilight.